Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Curious Kingdom. Today we are recapping a thrilling gangster series, Tulsa King. Set in the heart of Tulsa City, the story revolves around power, corruption, and family legacy as Sylvester Stallone's character faces off against the New York Mafia, the FBI, biker rebels, and more. High-speed car chases and explosive confrontations keep the action non-stop in Tulsa King. So sit back, relax, and prepare yourself for an exciting adventure as we take you through all the twists, turns, and thrills of Tulsa King's first season. Tulsa King Episode 1 begins in a prison cell where Dwight Manfredi, known as the General, is released today. He is picked up in a blacked-out car and taken to a mansion where he encounters his old mobster friends, including The Rock, the crime family leader, and his son Chicky. Dwight immediately demands compensation for taking the blame for a murder and spending 25 years in prison. However, instead of complying, they decide to send him to Tulsa, Oklahoma, offering him a wage and some compensation. Feeling betrayed, Dwight argues with them, accusing them of banishing him despite his loyalty to the family. This leads to a heated confrontation with Vincent, resulting in an elbow to Vincent's jaw, knocking him out. Before the situation escalates further, The Rock intervenes, allowing Dwight to leave the room. Upon arriving in Tulsa, Dwight seeks help from a cab driver named Tyson, whom he instructs to take him to a low-key hotel. During the drive, they share some laughs over Dwight's resemblance to a mobster. However, Dwight becomes puzzled when he sees a marijuana store, only to realize that marijuana is legally sold for medical purposes in Tulsa. Dwight gives Tyson some cash and asks him to wait outside as he explores the store. Inside, he demands to speak to the owner, Bodhi, which leads to a confrontation resulting in a bottle being thrown at a security guard. Getting scared, store owner Bodhi complies. Dwight asks to see the business's financial records and is astonished by the impressive numbers. He then coerces Bodhi to open a safe containing $500,000 in cash, of which Dwight takes $40,000. Dwight declares himself as Bodhi's business partner, claiming 20% of his profits in exchange for protection. With the deal settled, Dwight leaves the store, hands Tyson the $40,000, and informs him that he now works for him at a weekly wage of $2,000 and further orders him to buy a navigator with the money. Tyson is in disbelief when he drops Dwight off at a motel and heads to buy the navigator. Dwight unpacks his suits and belongings before going to the reception, where he arranges for an Uber with cash. While exploring town, Dwight came across a bar where he encounters Mitch, an ex-convict who served 5 years. The next day, Dwight waits for Tyson, who arrives in his mom's car, surprising Dwight. Tyson explains that the dealership doubted his ability to have that much cash legally. Determined, Dwight confronts the man at the car dealership but is dissatisfied with his response and ends up assaulting him, taking the navigator. After getting ice cream at a shopping center, a man watches Dwight from a distance and appears to recognize him and quickly leaves. Later, Dwight meets his new friend Mitch and is approached by a woman named Stacy. Time passes, and Dwight upgrades to a 5-star hotel, where he converses with Stacy, revealing his age of 75. Unbeknownst to Dwight, Stacy is an ATF agent, and her FBI friends warned her about an ex-gangster arriving in Tulsa. When she spots Dwight, she regrets not having recognized him earlier. Meanwhile, the man who eyed Dwight at the mall is on the phone inquiring about Dwight Manfredi's release from prison. The first episode ends with Dwight gazing out his window at Tulsa, the city he aims to conquer. In the second episode, Dwight remains at the Mayo Hotel, attempting to locate his missing daughter using a new laptop. When prompted to pay a small fee online, Dwight becomes frustrated as he lacks a credit card. Later, at a local coffee shop, he becomes irritated when the waiter informs him that they no longer offer glass cups. A lot has changed in outside world in 25 years. On the other hand, Stacy, the FBI agent, contacts her friend at the office to gather information about Dwight, concealing her true intentions. Meanwhile, Dwight roams the streets of Tulsa and feels envious when he sees a child playing with their mother, wishing he had a connection like that. Continuing his walk, a woman startles Dwight by proclaiming that the circle he is standing on is the center of the universe. To his surprise, he sees a horse walking on the street, making him question if he's seeing things. He approaches the woman and offers her money, but she rejects his offer, looking at him with disdain. Meanwhile, Stacy is discussing her marital issues with her psychologist. She shares that her current husband is dating someone else, and she's going through a divorce but staying with him for traditional reason. In New York, Vincent is unhappy due to Dwight's powerful punch that affected his speech. He seeks revenge but is told by Chicky that Dwight is a friend of their father, making him untouchable. However, Vincent is still angry and storms out of a laundering store. Dwight meets Tyson, his driver, and decides to go to the bank. On the way, he makes a stop at the marijuana store and secures his cut from Bodhi's business. At the bank, he presents an outdated license, leading to a humorous exchange with the banker. Dwight needs to renew his license, so he and Tyson come up with a plan for that. Meanwhile, the man from the previous episode, who saw Dwight in the mall, receives a call and learns that Dwight has been released from prison and is now in Tulsa, staying at the expensive Mayo Hotel. Dwight takes a test to renew his license and copies answers from a fellow test taker. After passing the test, he takes an amusing mugshot-like photo that surprises the cameraman. He is then informed that there's a 5-week wait for a driving test, but he quickly resolves the situation by offering cash, allowing him to book a test for the following week. Dwight returns to the bank and provides the necessary paperwork to fix his account. The banker shakes hands with him as they leave the bank. Shortly after, Chicky calls Dwight and explains that he needs to make amends for breaking Vincent's jaw, suggesting a compensation of $100,000. Dwight contemplates the request but doesn't commit to anything. Back in his hotel room, Dwight is reading when Stacy unexpectedly arrives. She admits to being an FBI agent, which surprises Dwight and makes him feel set up. Stacy warns him that she can't assist him if he engages in criminal activities, to which Dwight agrees, claiming he's in Tulsa for a holiday. Stacy leaves the hotel afterward. At Tyson's home, his father questions why Tyson isn't in college, but Tyson insists on working for a businessman, believing he can learn valuable lessons from him. They have a disagreement, and Tyson's father leaves in his car. Later, Tyson, Dwight, and Buddy are in the Navigator, heading to the weed farmer's place for a conversation. Once there, they are greeted by the owner's unfriendly cousin, known as Badface, or Fuckface, as Dwight jokingly calls him. A confrontation between Dwight and Badface nearly escalates into a fight, but the owner intervenes and invites them inside. Sitting together, the owner introduces himself as Jimmy, and he offers THC-infused lollies, which Dwight declines. Dwight proposes a bulk purchase deal. $1,200 for the first 10 units, $1,100 for the next 10, and $1,000 for the subsequent 10. The remaining 270 units will be priced at $750 each. Jimmy acknowledges Dwight's negotiation skills and shakes hands, finalizing the deal. Jimmy informs Dwight that the syrup he just ate is highly infused with THC, and Dwight starts laughing as he realizes he's stoned. On the car ride home, he becomes heavily intoxicated and behaves like a toddler. Meanwhile, the unknown man trying to find Dwight calls the Mayo Hotel for Dwight's room number but decides not to go through with contacting him. Back in the hotel, Dwight receives his debit card and accesses information about his daughter online. He musters the courage to call his daughter, Tina, Emery. Tina's husband picks up and tells her that her father wants to talk to her. Tina reluctantly talks to him for a brief moment before ending the call, leaving Dwight feeling devastated. He takes a walk and reaches the supposed center of the universe, where he becomes emotional and reflects on his past decisions. Episode 3 begins with a police siege on a man, and Stacy is present with her armed units and helicopter. The man holds a gun, and his boss approaches the scene, but he chooses not to interfere and is removed from the property. Feeling trapped, the man activates explosives, causing a building to blow up. Meanwhile, Dwight returns to his local coffee shop and spots the same horse from the previous episode. The barista also sees the horse, confirming that Dwight isn't hallucinating. He continues practicing driving for his upcoming test and visits Bodhi's shop, where he finds a party in progress. At the back of the property, he witnesses people inhaling balloons and tripping. He asks Bodhi what the hell is going on. Bodhi tells him that balloons are filled with nitrous oxide and they are getting high using these. Later that night, Dwight meets Mitch at the bar, discussing the opportunity to smuggle in 30 tanks of nitrous oxide using the bar as a cover. Mitch agrees to the offer. The following day, Dwight goes for his driving test. The same stalker from previous episodes is watching them. Instructor seems to be impressed with Dwight, and while they stop at a red light signal, an assassin with a balaclava shoots at them, but Dwight remains calm and pursues the attacker, causing a chaotic chase. Eventually, the assailant escapes, and the police arrive at the scene. Dwight plays innocent, stating it was a random attack, while secretly collecting information on the shooter's partial license plate. At the police station, Dwight maintains his innocent act, and Stacy arrives to see him. She informs him he's free to leave, and Dwight thanks her before departing. Later, he calls Chicky and voices his suspicion that Vincent might be involved in setting up the shooting. Chicky assures him that Vincent wouldn't do such a thing, but Dwight remains unconvinced. Meanwhile, Stacy and her team at the FBI headquarters are investigating the bombing incident. They identify Colin Waltrip as the mastermind, who is arming local bikers. Waltrip has a criminal history with multiple murder charges, and his right-hand person is Roxy, making them a dangerous gang that even the FBI fears. At the hospital, Dwight visits the driving instructor and gives him an envelope containing $10 Kelvin as compensation for passing him. He asks the instructor to find information about the car used in the shooting. Dwight also provides more money to Tyson and tells him to buy another car, warning him that any harm that comes to their loved ones will be on Tyson if he continues to be Dwight's driver. Meanwhile, Stacy returns to the explosion site and instead finds a scared and lonely dog, which she decides to take home with her. Dwight gets fortunate when the instructor provides a location for the car used in the shooting. Investigating the car, he finds a strange item with a 7 on it, linking it to a local horse ranch. Dwight goes to the ranch and encounters a woman riding a horse. He lies, claiming to be a private investigator and asks questions, but she dismisses him without a warrant. Dwight stakes out the ranch and follows a car he believes could be the shooter, but discovers the driver playing with his kids and decides not to take action. Episode 4 begins with the shooter dealing with his neighbor's dog defecating in his yard, leading to a heated confrontation. As he gets a shovel to clean up the mess, Dwight approaches from behind with a gun, interrogating him about who sent him to kill Dwight. The shooter, Armand Truazzi, confesses that he was forced to orchestrate the stabbing and killing of Dwight while they were both in jail in New York. Dwight slaps Armand in frustration when he claims Pete tried to kill him. Armand swears on his children's lives that Pete orchestrated the attack but left New York after it failed. Dwight demands a weekly rent of $300 from Armand as compensation. Armand's wife is shocked when she sees him and rushes to help, but Dwight leaves without forgiving him. Later, Tyson drives Dwight to a tailor, and he gets some sharp suits made, matching to the reputation of Tulsa King. Meanwhile, Stacy at the FBI headquarters continues to monitor Dwight, even though her friend finds it amusing. Mitch successfully smuggles in the nitrous oxide tanks, and they start making good money. Dwight invites Bodhi, Fred, and Tyson to the bar, where they sell the nitrous oxide balloons at a festival. At the festival, 2 bikers confront Bodhi and Tyson about selling there without permission. The tension escalates, but the situation doesn't turn violent. Armand breaks the gangster code and confesses everything to his wife, revealing his past and his associates. She's disgusted and walks away. The next day, Dwight and Tyson count the money they earned at the festival, and Dwight rewards Tyson with a gift, a pinky ring. Later, the local bikers hold a meeting, and their boss Colin punishes the bikers who allowed the nitrous oxide sales. Armand tries to offer Dwight a stolen metal horse worth $20,000 as compensation, but Dwight warns him not to sell it, fearing it will lead to trouble. Later, Dwight calls his younger sister to check on her, but she seems hesitant and unhappy to hear from him. She informs Dwight that their younger brother is extremely ill and hospitalized and asks him not to speak to him at the moment. Her tone is very serious, and she promises to talk to Dwight later. The call ends. Later, Tyson's dad, Mark, confronts him and disapproves of Tyson working as a chauffeur because he believes Tyson is associated with mobsters. Tyson disagrees with him and lies to his family about it. Later that night, Tyson and Bodhi return to the festival to sell more balloons. They spot the bikers from the previous night and are immediately attacked. The bikers steal their tanks and money and give them a beating. Despite the chaos, Dwight remains composed, smoking his cigar. Tyson apologizes to Dwight and Mitch for losing the money, but they reassure him that there's no need to apologize and that they have a plan to fix the situation. Dwight instructs everyone to meet at the bar later that night, including Armand, who also receives a call from Dwight. Tyson faces his angry father at home, and their argument escalates until Tyson is kicked out of the house. As night falls, everyone gathers at the bar, including Mark, who insists on joining them to protect his son. They head to the festival, and Tyson hopes there's a plan that won't result in another beating for Bodhi. Dwight leads the group, armed with baseball bats, toward the festival. The chaos ensues as they engage in a massive brawl with the bikers. Bodhi is pinned down briefly, but Badface comes to his rescue. Tyson is also cornered, but his father intervenes and saves him. The father-son bond is strengthened during the fight. Armand proves to be formidable, and eventually they emerge victorious, retrieving the stolen tanks and cash from the bikers. After returning to their home base, everyone is still pumped up with adrenaline. Dwight gives Armand some money as a token of appreciation for his help. Tyson and his father are enjoying a good bonding time back at the hotel. Meanwhile, Dwight receives a call from his sister, who is at the hospital. She informs him that their younger brother is in critical condition and urges Dwight to say his final words to him before he passes away. Dwight becomes emotional, apologizing to his brother for not being around and reminiscing about their childhood together. He expresses his love and bids farewell to him, ending the call with a heavy heart, reflecting on his life decisions. Armand returns home after a long night and encounters an irritating situation with his neighbor's dog. Frustrated, he loses his temper and gets into a physical altercation with his neighbor, hitting him with his shit-stained shoe. In the next episode, Dwight travels to New York, dressed impressively in crocodile-scaled attire, to attend his brother's funeral. At the gathering, he reunites with his sister Joanne, whom he hasn't seen in 25 years. Despite the emotional occasion, Dwight's daughter Tina appears upset and distant towards him. He goes outside with Joanne for a smoke, where she shares news about Dwight's twin grandchildren, Cody and Ryan. In Tulsa, two marshals have a conversation with a member of the biker gang, and the gang's leader receives information about Dwight and his crew in New York. At the New York hotel, Dwight receives a call from Chicky, who reprimands him for returning to New York without permission. Chicky also informs him that he wants to meet at the hospital the next day because his father's health is deteriorating. Meanwhile, Tyson is driving around Tulsa feeling bored when he gets pulled over by two cops, and the situation seems tense. Tyson finds himself in a confusing and troubling situation when he gets pulled over by the cops, who arrest him on suspicion without body cams to record their actions. To his dismay, they plant drugs in his car, leading to his arrest. Desperate, Tyson tries to contact Dwight for help, but Dwight doesn't answer, leaving Tyson to be held in custody with other detainees. In New York, Dwight attends a family dinner and generously tips the waiter to ensure a good flow of food and drinks. However, tensions arise when he requests introductions from those he hasn't met before. His daughter Tina's husband, Emery, is somewhat disappointed that Dwight didn't give his blessing for their marriage. Tina becomes upset and lashes out at her father, leaving the dinner abruptly. At the hospital, the mobsters, including Dwight, are playing cards when Vincent's missus experiences a sneeze attack. Dwight offers her tissues, but Vincent becomes confrontational. Chicky calms the situation and advises Dwight not to provoke Vincent, while Chicky's father is in the hospital. In jail, Tyson pleads to use the bathroom but is met with cruel treatment from the cops. They demand his phone password to release him, and Tyson complies. Meanwhile, Stacy receives a call from Dwight, who wants to hear a familiar voice. She warns Dwight that the bikers he encountered at the festival are more dangerous than they seem and asks to meet him in person. However, when Tyson calls Dwight later, the call abruptly ends, and it appears the bikers have something to do with it. Finally, Tyson is released from prison, but the cops have played dirty by withholding his phone, which is not listed among his returned items. Armand's actions at the festival become a topic of amusement among his workers, and he learns that one of them has connections to the biker club he confronted, seeking revenge against those who caused the chaos. Armand is feeling extremely anxious as his name has become known in Tulsa. The situation with the bikers is getting more serious as they interrogate Bodhi, putting a knife to his neck. Bodhi, out of fear, ends up snitching, admitting that he is being extorted and can't do anything about it. The bikers want to send a message to Dwight's crew and decide to take Bodhi to the bar to confront him. At the bar, the bikers question Bodhi, but he doesn't provide satisfactory answers. Mitch, losing patience, tells the bikers to get out of his establishment since they have no authority on Cherokee land. Bodhi is eventually released, and Mitch asks him about the events. Dwight visits his daughter's shop, attempting to reconcile with her after their past issues. However, she remains hurt by his absence and the lack of support he provided for her and her mother. Tina accidentally lets slip some information about the package, a man who caused her harm one Tuesday night. Dwight becomes enraged and demands the full story, but Tina pleads with him not to take any action. Later, Dwight visits Pete at the hospital, giving him a photo of Pete's deceased brother and emphasizing the importance of family. He expresses his disappointment in Pete for not protecting his family and for breaking promises. Fueled by anger, Dwight seeks out the person known as the package at the card game location, where he violently confronts and attacks him. He repeatedly stomped his face brutally, resulting in the man's death. Dwight leaves the scene consumed by fury. Episode 6 of Tulsa King starts with a scene reminiscent of the iconic Route 66, featuring a man searching for his missing horse, Pilot. Meanwhile, Stacy and her partner at the ATF are focused on gathering information about the biker gang. However, her partner becomes intrigued by information about a new Italian mafia group in town, potentially compromising their primary mission. Back in New York, Pete is furious with his son Chicky for failing to stop the package from assaulting Dwight's daughter, Tina. Chicky tries to manipulate the situation, claiming that Dwight is out of control and needs to be eliminated. But his father, Pete, isn't easily fooled and chastises Chicky for lying. Dwight visits Tina's store and reveals that he took care of the package. Tina is shocked by his actions, feeling that her life is now ruined. Dwight assures her that he will protect her and that no one else will come after her. When Dwight returns to Tulsa, he learns about Tyson's ordeal and immediately goes to Bodhi's store. However, he finds the store closed, and Bodhi is not answering his phone. Roxy approaches Armand, relaying her boss's message about resolving the conflict between their crews. Armand agrees to pass on the message but makes no further promises. Finally, Dwight reaches his crew's home base and is relieved to see Mitch. He discusses the events that unfolded during his time in New York, explaining how the bikers harassed Bodhi and Tyson. Concerned for Tina's safety, Dwight calls one of Pete's men and asks him to come to Tulsa to help cool down the situation. The man agrees to check with Pete first before confirming the visit. The following day, FBI agents show up at Bodhi's door, wanting to speak with him, leaving him surprised and uncertain about what's to come. Meanwhile, the mobsters decide to raid a shop they suspect holds valuable assets. After tearing the place apart, they find no weed or money, but an officer reveals there's a safe in the back. The mobsters hold a meeting to discuss Dwight's proposal, with Chicky expressing suspicions of it being a setup. However, Pete dismisses Chicky's concerns and suggests they should meet with Dwight. Dwight has a confrontational sit-down with Waltrip, refusing to negotiate and making it clear that he stands firmly with Mitch. Back at their home base, they have dinner when Bodhi suddenly appears. Bodhi tells Dwight about his encounter with the FBI and explains how he managed to mislead them, claiming they are just business partners. Dwight is impressed, and they share a light-hearted moment, revealing that Dwight replaced the money in his store safe with a cigar, further claiming that he looks after his associates. The next day, Dwight visits his favorite coffee shop and learns that the horse, Pilot, will be put down for escaping frequently. He meets a waitress named Spencer, and they bond over their shared love for horses. Dwight takes her to the stable and buys Pilot from the owner. He then arranges for Margaret at the Finario Ranch to train and house Pilot on the condition that he makes proper arrangements for the horse within a week. At the biker's bar, Waltrip discusses their plan with his number 2, Groom, when the red-headed mole interrupts with numerous questions, annoying Groom. Waltrip warns the mole to mind her manners. In another scene, Tina is seen with her kids, and when her husband Emery goes to park the car, Chicky suddenly appears and violently attacks Emery, breaking his arm in the process. Chicky then walks away casually. Later, at the bar, Dwight and Mitch are closing up when bullets shatter the window. They quickly take cover, and Dwight is shot at while trying to get a glimpse of the shooter. Mitch retrieves his gun, and they both circle around the house to confront the biker firing at the bar. In a fierce firefight, they manage to kill the biker. Afterward, Mitch expresses his willingness to be business partners with Dwight, and they shake hands, sealing the deal. In episode 7, the scene opens with Mitch and Dwight burying the biker from the previous episode. After taking off the man's jacket and placing him in the grave, the story shifts to New York, where Pete is talking to his doctor. The doctor advises Pete to take it easy with cigars and claim to extend his life by another 15 years. Meanwhile, Tina calls her father to tell him that her husband was attacked the previous night. Her father is shocked to learn that Pete and his family lied to him. He offers Tina a place to stay in Tulsa, but she declines. Later, Mitch asks Dwight if he should add a fish to a delivery, but Dwight advises against it. The focus then moves to Tyson and Armand at the train station, where Goody Carangi arrives in town. Goody recognizes Armand from the past and questions why he is in Tulsa. Armand explains it's just a coincidence and takes Goody to his car. During the ride, Goody notices Tyson's ring and asks how he got it. Tyson casually says he bought it, and Goody warns Armand to be careful about his association with Dwight, which Armand affirms was coincidental. Elsewhere, Waltrip and the Black McAdams receive a package containing a blood-stained jacket. Waltrip is filled with anger and a desire for revenge, while Pike's girlfriend, Roxy, is devastated and decides to seek help from Stacy, an ATF officer. Roxy wants to escape their arrangement, but Stacy convinces her to gather evidence against Waltrip and the biker gang's leader for her freedom. Roxy mentions a laptop she can get for Stacy, and they plan to meet the next day at 10 a.m. Back at Bodhi's shop, they find it in disarray. Bodhi and his crew agree to start cleaning up and discover a hidden USB when Bodhi loosens some screws. At home base, Goody and Dwight's men arrive, but Goody receives a hostile reception. He is warned not to let Pete's men come near their daughter again or face dire consequences. Goody denies any involvement in the attack and claims ignorance about any involvement. Dwight, trusting his childhood friend, accepts his answers and invites him to have a drink. Later that night, Goody reports to Chicky and his father, sharing information about Dwight's operation. He describes Dwight's associates, including the man running the bar and the black kid who drives him around, likening them to the village people. However, Goody expresses doubts about Dwight's loyalty to the crime family, especially after giving his ring away to Tyson for comfort. Stacy confronts Dwight by aggressively knocking on his door and demands answers about Pike's death. However, Dwight adamantly denies any involvement, which infuriates Stacy even more. She threatens to arrest him but storms off, using strong language. The next day, Roxy decides to take bold action but ends up making a reckless decision. She breaks into Waltrip's office and starts snooping around, eventually finding a locked drawer. With a knife, she opens it and discovers a hidden laptop. As she starts going through the contents, Waltrip surprises her by entering the room. Despite his calm and amused demeanor, he politely asks her to explain herself. Roxy admits her actions, calling herself a rat. Unbeknownst to her, Waltrip sets a deadly trap by giving her the knife as a necklace, which leads to her demise. A few hours later, Stacy waits for Roxy, who is late for their meeting. When Stacy calls, a man answers and implies that Roxy won't be taking any calls anymore, hinting at her death. Meanwhile, Dwight meets Bodhi and presents his new business plan to renovate Mitch's restaurant and add a casino. Bodhi is impressed with the money laundering potential of the operation, revealing a massive crypto haul he stole. Dwight is thrilled and amused by Bodhi's criminality, thinking he was the only one with a dark side in Tulsa. At the hospital, Tina asks her injured husband about moving to Tulsa to escape gangsters. However, her husband refuses, promising that New York would be a better place for them. The father-son bonding time between Chicky and his father turns tense when Dwight is brought up, and Chicky becomes frustrated. He expresses his desire to lead the family in a new direction and takes charge by forcefully submerging his father's head in water, symbolizing his new position in the family. Later, when Pete's death spreads among the mobsters, Vincent comes to pay his respects and offers help to Chicky. Chicky tells Vincent that he only seeks assistance in getting the family back on track. Later, Dwight encounters Goody, who informs him of Pete's death from a heart attack. Dwight decides not to attend the funeral, indicating brewing tensions between the New York Mafia and the new Tulsa mobster. Episode 8 begins with Mitch instructing his squad on proper shooting techniques. They all take their turns shooting at bottles but miss terribly. When it's Tyson's turn, he tries to act like a gangster, but also misses. Mitch then demonstrates the proper use of a pistol, expertly shooting all the bottles to show off his skills. Grace surprises everyone by cleanly shooting the bottles, earning Dwight's admiration and applause. Elsewhere, Stacy waits for Waltrip at the McAdams hangout. As he arrives, she confronts him aggressively, demanding to know where he buried Roxy. Acting clueless, Waltrip denies knowing who Roxy is, and Stacy threatens him as he arrogantly walks away. At home base, Dwight, Bodhi, and Mitch meet with Jimmy and pitch the idea of opening a casino, assuring him that his involvement will be hidden through a trust fund to protect him from legal issues. Dwight also asks Jimmy to arrange for tough guys like Badface to help him back in New York. Meanwhile, Chicky holds a meeting with other mobster families and shocks them by suggesting they take out Dwight. After throwing one of the men against a wall, Chicky ascertains his dominance and orders everyone to leave. Dwight and Tyson stake out the McAdams hideout and notice two police officers who previously arrested Tyson. Stacy's partner is mentioned again, but she brushes it off, getting agitated and reporting that her informant was murdered but revealed the existence of a laptop with millions of dollars. The FBI agrees that Waltrip is a threat and obtains a warrant. Dwight meets with some of Mitch's buddies from jail, confirming their shooting abilities and determination for the task at hand. He then calls Tina, suggesting she delay her visit to Tulsa due to the escalating situation. The FBI and ADF execute their warrant at the bar where the McAdams are located but don't find Waltrip or his right-hand man. However, they discover the laptop Roxy mentioned, containing over $8 million in crypto. They recognize Waltrip's significance and start contacting Friez's assets. Waltrip learns of the raid and becomes furious, demanding that Dwight be arrested immediately. They assure him they'll handle it swiftly. Meanwhile, Bodhi tries to convince Jimmy to join their businesses together, promising easy money for him. Later, Tyson and Dwight get pulled over, and Dwight recognizes the two dirty cops. He instructs Tyson to stay in the car while he handles the situation. He steps out of the car with his hand in his jacket, pretending to hold a loaded .357 Magnum with hollow points. Dwight tells the two officers that he's armed and ready. They respond by threatening him, claiming they know where he lives. Unfazed, Dwight warns them likewise, causing them to back off cautiously. However, he starts laughing as he reveals to Tyson that he left his gun at home, and the entire bluff was just a show. Later, in an intriguing turn of events, Chicky calls Dwight and declares that he wants no more conflict with him after his father's death. He plans to visit Tulsa to reconcile and ensure there are no lingering grudges. Dwight agrees to the meeting and awaits Chicky's arrival. Meanwhile, Waltrip becomes furious with the police on his payroll, considering them useless, and resolves to handle Dwight on his own. Meanwhile, family drama unfolds as Armand's wife expresses her desire to move out of Tulsa, resulting in an explosive argument between them. The episode ends when Stacy unexpectedly approaches Dwight and starts lecturing him about his principles. Despite the tension, Dwight manages to make her laugh during their conversation. However, the situation takes a dark turn when they encounter two bikers in an alleyway. A shootout ensues, resulting in casualties, including Waltrip's second-in-command and Stacy being shot. Waltrip escapes as Tyson arrives, and Dwight hands him the gun before Tyson speeds away, only to be met with a swarm of arriving officers. The episode concludes with a frantic and vengeful-looking Dwight. In Episode 9, we delve into events from 25 years ago when both Chicky and Vincent were causing trouble for a man who owed them money. They decided to torment him for their own amusement, despite Armand's pleas for them to stop. Ignoring him, they continued their cruel actions. Armand eventually called Dwight for help, providing the address. When Dwight arrived, he witnessed a horrifying scene. They were treating the man as if he was a horse and burning a signet on him. Dwight intervened, commanding Chicky and Vincent to back off and hand over the keys. However, they couldn't find them, and a fire starts which suddenly gets out of control. In the chaos, Chicky ran off, leaving Dwight struggling to free the man. He tried breaking and shooting the chains, but he failed. Unfortunately, he realized the only thing he can do for him is to give him an easy death by shooting him rather than leaving to burn alive. In the present day, Dwight is constantly hassled by the police, who are investigating the shooting of Stacy and himself. He sticks to his usual response of not having seen or heard anything. Dwight's lawyer arrives and informs the cops of the charges against him. As they leave, Dwight visits Stacy in the hospital, thanking her for saving his life and expressing his gratitude. Meanwhile, enraged Waltrip starts a session, vowing not to rest until every man in Dwight's crew is dead. Despite concerns about attracting attention, he puts a bounty on Waltrip's head. Dwight warns Armand that things are about to escalate, and there's no turning back. Armand is determined not to back down and reveals that Chicky is in town, ready to prove himself as the new mafia boss. Armand's information is accurate, and as Chicky complains about the weather to his boys, Dwight confronts him. Despite being 76 years old, Dwight fearlessly challenges Chicky, reminding him that he never mentioned being in Tulsa. Chicky had exiled him there to perish, but Dwight is undeterred. He gives Goody, one of Chicky's men, an ultimatum, and Goody chooses to side with Dwight. Dwight threatens them with snipers positioned all over and then makes it clear that Chicky and his crew are no longer welcome, and that they leave town immediately. Later on, Dwight gathers his crew for a meeting and introduces Goody as a new member. He presents them with two options. They can walk away without trouble, or they can stay and fight, facing fear head-on and retaliating against their enemies with even greater force. Everyone agrees to stand with Dwight, making it one of the most intense scenes in the series. Dwight visits Bodhi's abode and asks if he can utilize his tech skills to siphon Waltrip's cash. Bodhi agrees to help and, with impressive expertise using Binance, MetaMask, and other hacking tools, manages to locate millions of dollars on a laptop that the FBI was monitoring. He successfully drains the funds, causing chaos for the officers investigating the matter. Meanwhile, Stacy receives a get-well card from Dwight while she's at the hospital. Inside the card is a USB drive containing $1 million, leaving her in disbelief. Later that day, when the crew is playing cards, they hear Harleys approaching outside. Dwight signals them to take action, and they set up tripwires and prepare for the bikers' arrival. In the ensuing confrontation, a fierce battle erupts, with casualties on both sides. Dwight eventually confronts and defeats Waltrip, putting an end to the threat. 3 months pass, and Tina moves to Tulsa to be with her dad, along with Dwight's grandsons. The family enjoys a period of pure happiness, and for the first time, Dwight decides to ride a horse, bringing joy to his loved ones as they spend a great time together. During these 3 months, Stacy has made a remarkable recovery. Her fellow officers commend her for her impressive policing history and assure her that she will be reinstated, despite her conversation with a known felon. However, there is one condition. Moving on, the crew has rebuilt Bread 2 Buck, and everyone is present and accounted for. Mitch leads a band, and they celebrate securing a new gambling license. As Dwight hangs out, Fred approaches him and discreetly informs him that a girl is waiting outside for him. Dwight is delighted to see Stacy, but her demeanor has changed significantly. She apologizes for the events to come, in her red hairs and changed attitude. At that moment, the police officers intervene, holding up the USB drive and accusing Dwight of trying to bribe an officer. They proceed to arrest him and put him in the car. Tina, witnessing the scene, runs out and rushes to Dwight, reliving the trauma of her father being taken away in handcuffs once again. The season 1 concludes as police officers drive off with Dwight in handcuffs. Dwight seethes with rage and a feeling of betrayal. That's all for today, folks. Lots of hard work goes into each video. If you guys enjoy these videos, please like, share, and subscribe for more such content. Curious Knight signing off. Stay safe, stay curious.